Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel Venus Educators, and I'm your English faculty Sayyida Salima Tehseen. Remember the modern age literature we discussed in our last class? That was the age of full of hope, progress and new ideas. But now the story takes a darker turn. If you missed that video, check the modern age playlist on Venus Educators. So, today we are going to learn about war poets and lost generation and how the lost generation is connected with the jazz age. So, in this regard, we are going to learn in a storytelling way. First came the war poet, soldiers who wrote from the trenches, turning pain into poetry. Then came the lost generation writers like Hemingway, Fitzgerald, lost in the material world after World War. And finally, the jazz age, full of parties, rhythm, and rebellion, where people danced to forget their emptiness. So let's begin with war poets. War poets are also known as trench poets. They were poets who participated in World War I and wrote about their personal experiences of war. In poetry, war was usually depicted honorable and glorious affair. But then World War I began, thousands of young men left their home with conviction that the war was going to be a glorious affair. However, those very few survived the war, returned to their homes, and they were horrified by what they experienced at the war front. Many turned to writing, became artists. They did in order to escape from the trauma of war. These poets are collectively known as war poets, and their poetry is often anti-war in nature, presenting the real horrors and futility of war. Their works attack the glorified ideology of war and reveal the suffering, loss, and disillusionment of soldiers. So basically, here how they used to imagine the war, it was not like that in the reality, and that their emotions were affected, not only emotions but also the trauma that they have lost their years and years in the war. It is also affected on their personality, and they have chosen to write poetry and going to discuss everything what they have experienced in their poetries. So that's why these poets are called as war poets. Now look at who are the major war poets are. Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, Robert Graves, Isaac Rosenberg, Rupert Brooke, Edward Thomas, Ivor Gurney, Edmund Blunden. So these are the major war poets. So let's begin the lost generation. So where you have seen war poets as the person who actually expected that war is a glorious effort, but they found it and experienced it as a horrified event in their lives. Here in Lost Generation, the scene has changed. The Lost Generation refers to a group of American writers who became disillusioned after World War I. They were disappointed by the senseless destruction caused by the war and the loss of moral values in the society. So, the group of writers of America who shown discontent and disillusioned on World War I are known as the Lost Generation. The term Lost Generation was first used by Gertrude Stein, a modernist American writer who lived in Paris and described the young writers of that time as a lost generation. The term lost generation was popularized by Ernest Hemingway in the epigraph of his novel The Sun Also Rises. These writers felt alienated from the superficial materialism of post war society and often expressed bitterness, loss, and confusion in their work. Many of them immigrated to Europe, especially Paris, where they lived and wrote from World War I until the Great Depression. So, Great Depression has started or came in 1930s. Now, who are the important lost generation members, or we can say the authors associated with it? It is Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Gertrude Stein, John Dos Passos, and T.S. Eliot. So, here, where people had everything to live but nothing to live for. So, they saw a world obsessed with money and parties, pleasures. They felt lost in it. So, writers like Scott Fitzgerald and T.S. Eliot and Hemingway tried to capture that disillusionment in their novels and poems. So, the epigraph written by Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises, perfectly symbolizes this era. Because they were not physically fighting, but they were emotionally wounded by the emptiness of post war life. They saw a huge moral degradation. So, with this, we have completed Lost Generation, but that somewhere leave the pool for Jazz Age. So, the writers were writing in an age called Jazz Age. Jazz Age shows us the two-sided sides of modernity, that is, prosperity one hand and the purposelessness on the other hand. Jazz Age is a musical age. The Lost Generation writers were writing during a period known as the Jazz Age, a musical cultural age that flourished in the 1920s. The term Jazz Age refers to the period of prosperity and cultural change that followed World War I, particularly in the United States and western parts of Europe. After the war, victorious countries prospered economically. The 1920s were marked by wealth, luxury, and social freedom, especially in America. This was also a time of moral decline, as the people began indulging in drinking, smoking, and material pleasures. Parties, dancing, and music became the symbol of new culture. That most popular feature of this was jazz music, which originated from African American and Creole music styles. Jazz became a symbol of freedom, rebellion, and expression, and it influenced literature, fashion, and lifestyle. So, the writers of the Jazz Age often criticize materialism and superficiality through their works. So, basically, we can say that they have somewhere lost themselves in a materialism. So, who are the important writers over here? We have discussed that, and what are the key points we are going to discuss here now? Connection to lost generation. So, the Jazz Age is closely related to the lost generation. And second important point is industrial impact. It reflects the ill effects of industrialization and modern materialism. So we have seen here that how they have replaced blood with music, and what has been done here, parties, dance and music become symbol of new culture. Social divide. Rich people indulge in pleasure seeking lifestyle. Artists and writers question society's values. And we have next point, cultural fusion. So the Jazz Age is a mixture of different tradition, music, art and rebellion against convention. So no more the convention was going on, the new culture has been taken place, right? So we have learned about lost generation, war poets and Jazz Age. So we can say that Jazz Age has a shown us the two sides of the modernity. What is that? First one, we are seeing the prosperity, and the second thing we can see over here is purposelessness. So with this, I have concluded our session for today. So, from the blood-stained trenches to the glowing dance floors, the world of literature had truly changed. These writers, the war poets, the lost generation, and the jazz voices taught us that the art doesn't always celebrate victory. Sometimes it mourns the cost of it. Yes? So let me know in the comment which area fascinates you more, the haunting poetry of the war poets or the dazzling chaos of the Jazz Age. Don't forget to subscribe Venus Educators for learning English literature, and you are going to get such more powerful literary journeys here. So do subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.